Welcome to Fleet Auto News Podcast. I'm Caroline Falls, and today I'm speaking with US-based Jay Collins, Senior Vice President and General Manager of Electric Vehicles and Mobility at Global Fleet Services Group, WEX Inc. We're going to talk about the US appetite for EVs and the new legislation there that's tipped to accelerate take-up of non-gas guzzlers. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Caroline. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before we get into the topic of EVs in America, let's talk about you and WEX. WEX is well known in Australia, especially for its multi-brand fuel card used by government and corporate fleets here. But tell us more about WEX and the services it has for fleets around the world.
You know, Caroline, that's wonderful to hear because we've worked hard to establish some global brand recognition. We got our start almost 40 years ago in the fuel card business, long before electronic payments existed. Back in the days when they referred to credit card machines as knuckle busters. But the payment systems evolved, and as they did, we worked closely with our customers to use that new technology to solve problems they were facing within their businesses. Now we have nearly 12 million active commercial vehicles in our portfolio in the US. We've seen and solved a lot. And one thing we recognize is that one size doesn't fit all. Our customers commonly focus on controlling their transactions, containing their costs, using data to improve the efficiency. But really, we're just helping our customers simplify the business of doing business, by removing vehicle fueling from their list of headaches. And as a result, we've grown to more than 5,700 employees across 16 countries.
Well, and what about you? You're based in Portland, north of Boston, at WEX's global headquarters. How long have you been at WEX, and what propelled you or compelled you to become General Manager of EVs and Mobility? And is this a US-focused role, or do you have a wider, more global role?
Sure. So yeah, we're up in Portland, Maine, and I'd say we're just far enough north of Boston to have a slightly different accent. I moved from Boston to join WEX 17 years ago, but my time in WEX hasn't always been in Portland. My background had been in startups, and I had the opportunity to start our fleet business in Europe. That resulted in a move over to the UK and a lot of time on the continent around Europe. So I'd say to the question of what propelled me, it was probably that desire to create and that startup background, because we are treating EV and mobility here at WEX like a startup globally. It is a global initiative. But I'd say to the more important question to, what compelled me or what inspired me to do it, it's a healthy mix of sustainability and technology. I'm a lifelong surfer from Australia. You may recognize the sport, and I'm an outdoor enthusiast. And so the oceans, the environment have always been in my direct line of sight. And I've never felt the answer was to do nothing. And I believe that EVs, and in particular commercial EVs, present a chance to really move the needle in terms of sustainability. And that inspires me. But I'd say that, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm totally geeking out over the technology. I love the technology that goes into EVs. I'm a big supporter. I do think it is like the difference between our flip phones and our smartphones. It's a real shift. I think it's here to stay. I have an old Land Cruiser that I absolutely love, but it's been parked since I got my first EV. And I'd say that's probably saying something about how enamored by the technology and the potential that it creates is.
With the EVs, the flavour of the moment, I imagine everyone loves talking to you. We're certainly thrilled to have you on our show, and just days after magnificent new legislation in the US that's expected to propel the take-up of EVs. So let's talk about that now. Mid-August, US President Biden signed new US climate legislation as part of the, I think it was called the Inflation Reduction Act, that provides big tax breaks for electric vehicles and new charging stations. You're in the US. Can you tell us about the mood there when that came about, how that was greeted in your quarters, the automotive industry?
Yeah, I have to say that's a really packed question, especially discussing the mood without delving too far into the political environment here in the US. So let's just say that the topic remains hot in every way you want to define that word. But regardless, as you noted, the legislation hits two key areas for EV adoption: the cost of the vehicle and the expansion of the charging network. Initially, in the commercial space, most of our conversations started around sustainability, but we've seen an uptick in interest based on total cost of ownership. So the initial wave of purchases has given us a tremendous amount of insight into how to best plan for the introduction and migration of EVs into a fleet. Specifically, being able to ask the right question at the right time to get the best experience. That's important because we believe that a bad first experience will impact adoption. We don't want that to happen. And a bad ongoing experience will impact our customers' business. And we won't let that happen. So we're working to help our customers convert the right vehicles at the right time and to get the best result. And it's its simplest form. This legislation increases the number of use cases that make EVs make sense for our customers, whether it's for the purpose of sustainability or for the total cost of ownership. If you really want to talk about the politics, we might need to grab a pint, but I'd say we stick to EVs and mobility.
I think so. I understand the legislation is going to become effective at the end of this year. And just a little bit of the detail from it. It's got some massive credits in it. For example, a commercial vehicle EV credit worth up to $40,000 and a refueling credit worth as much as $100,000 per charger. I think there's also credits for buyers of used EVs. I guess these incentives make electrifying a fleet in the US more affordable than ever. And so what sort of impact are you expecting to see? And I was just wondering if growth is going to be constrained by, some supply issues with getting the vehicles.
Yeah, the policy is really helping overall. There's no question. But I don't know that it changes the mind of those who are focused on sustainability. They were already on this path, and this is just further support that decision and make it easier to execute, especially the charging credits, right? The charging infrastructure and the charging credits. I think that's just continuing to reinforce that decision that's already been made. Where I think we see the greatest impact is in fleets that are looking for total cost of ownership. This really tips the scales, at least in terms of trying an EV or two as part of their vehicle replacement plans. So, demand is on the vehicle side is probably going to be greater than supply for the foreseeable future, but it probably won't be our biggest adoption hurdle. The speed at which the charging environment improves will likely be that next hurdle to clear. So more vehicles coming online, more EVs going into use up against a support network that's being built in real time. So I don't know that we'll be as supplied by constraints on the vehicle side as we will on the network side in the US. Some states here have wonderful infrastructures built in place. Others it's lacking. So there's a reason policy and legislation has been put in place to support that. But I think at this point, the real shift is going to be in not just sustainability focus, but total cost of ownership focus. And that's where we're really going to see demand increase.
We'll be back after a short break for a word from our sponsor, Sofico Services.
Sofico is a world-leading provider of enterprise software for the automotive leasing, finance, and mobility industry. For more than 30 years, international leasing companies and OEMs count on Sofico's expertise and technology to help them transform innovative product concepts into streamlined business processes and engaging customer experiences. With more than 370 experts, 8 offices on 4 continents, and an annual growth averaging 15%, Sofico is perfectly positioned to help its customers succeed in a rapidly changing market where electrification, shared fleets, and multimodal mobility challenge us and our customers to play a pioneering role. Continuous investment in people, innovation, and leading-edge technology is the basis for continued growth and success.
And what does the shift from traditional fuel or gas, as you call it there, in Australia we call it petrol, mean for WEX? Do you have a product that fleet drivers can use to account for charging costs from various public charges in lieu of like the fuel card for just getting gas from the pump?
Sure. Yeah, I'm equally comfortable talking about liters in petrol as I am talking about, gallons in gasoline. So we can use either language. But, in terms of what it means for WEX, I like to think about it, what it means more for our customers. So we have solutions in place today that allow our customers to pay for public charging using a WEX product. But the payment's only one part of a charging experience. And the charging experience is where we're currently focused. Specifically the commercial charging experience. So when I say that, it won't help our customers' productivity if their drivers sit idle waiting for fast chargers. So we've got to be implementing products that help with that. It doesn't simplify our customer business if they have to go back to expense reports for capturing home charging. And it likely won't contain costs for our customers if their depot charging plans don't include effective energy management solutions. So I could go on, but the bottom line is that there's a lot to solve for in terms of making the commercial charging experience as ubiquitous as it is in the commercial fueling space today. That's what we do. We've done it for the last 40 years, and I see this with EV, it's what we'll do for the next 40 years.
So I'm wondering what that product looks like. Has it already been developed?
So components of that product have been developed with a greater focus on route transactions. We're in the process of and about to launch in Europe as well as later this fall in the US with our home charging solutions and our depot charging solutions. So today our fleets can capture those transactions, and in the future they'll be able to capture transactions in different charging locations.
Okay. And I was just wondering if you have any service that might help fleets account for their emissions reporting obligations, like whether it's mandatory or not to report vehicle emissions. Is it something fleets are grappling in the US? Is it something that they're grappling with, and is it something that you have anything to help them with?
Sure, and actually this is an area that's really exciting for us, especially because we see both sides of the mixed fleet equation. So not only do we help fleets measure the impact for conversion, but we're also going to be able to help them determine the next best vehicles to convert to get the biggest bang for their buck, whether it be for purposes of sustainability or cost. So today, our customers rely on the data that we provide for their business, and we see the need increasing in that as we head into the EV and mobility space. The data to report on progress for sustainability efforts, and we have a unique position because of that single comprehensive view. So to have both the transactions on the internal combustion side as well as the EV side, we sit in a wonderful spot there to help our customers understand the impact that they're having and the impact that their conversion efforts are having. One thing that we don't know, which we're really looking forward as this evolves, is what additional data needs will come out of an EV and mobility environment. We learned along the way as we built WEX, over the past 40 years, that the reporting needs change significantly over time. The data that we provide today helps our customers run their businesses more effectively and more efficiently. We see a horizon here that ahead that really changes with EV, but we believe some of those needs remain the same.
And I just sort of wanted to have a little bit of a chat with you about, emission scopes. And I didn't want to get tangled up in a big discussion here now about various scopes, but briefly tell us, is this a topic US fleet managers are sophisticated in, or is it an area where a lot of growth and education is required?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, as you can imagine, we have some very sophisticated customers in terms of EV and EV conversion. But I'd say that there's still a huge opportunity in terms of education and probably even using the term continuing education. Internally, we have a few big themes that have been emerging. The first one we categorize as look before you leap. Help our customers convert the right vehicles at the right time. The next one is to make it simple, for us to be relentless in making EV as ubiquitous as internal combustion fueling. And then the final one is measure and control, to ensure that the reporting and the transactional needs of EVs are being met the way they're being met in the fueling space today. So, that look before you leap was actually born out of our initial experiences working with fleets who had purchased EVs, before thinking through the use case. And it really helped us build that comprehensive set of questions to ensure the first experience with their EVs keeps them wanting more, right? Our incredible customer base is unique in its scope, and as a result, we have great insight that we can use to help all of our customers. So, the sophistication level spans a range, as you might expect, and as a result, we can use that information to help with that educational campaign and that in continuing education, because even those who converted early who are very sophisticated are finding new needs almost daily that need to be addressed.
I hear what you say, and it sounds like more and more US fleets are setting sustainability goals and transitioning their fleets. And I was wondering, are they even adopting new mobility measures such as subscription to car, share car setups like Zipcar? Is that so?
Yeah, so, absolutely on the sustainability, setting goals and transitioning their fleets. I can't say we've seen a big shift to subscription or the car share approach. The EV transition is definitely underway. But, in terms of the subscription offers, we're seeing it more still at through a consumer lens, and less so from a commercial option at this point in time. And that's not to say that some of our customers, haven't looked into this and maybe even aren't trying some of it. But, I think if availability becomes a significant issue, it may drive some more commercial interest in this space. But just to be able to test the waters on EV, and most of the discussions we're having, though, are really on transitioning to meet sustainability goals by way of lease or purchase, and not necessarily by way of share car setups like Zipcar, things like that. So, but certainly, if availability becomes an issue, we might see some more interest in that space from a commercial perspective.
Okay, but I note your job title includes mobility. So why is that? In your case, what does it mean? What does it involve?
Yeah, sure. And I'd say first and foremost, mobility has different meanings in different use cases, right? So for some, it's very heavily based in logistics, But in our initial view, it's more about seamless payments as they relate to vehicles, So using new technology to make our customers more efficient, more effective, and importantly, more sustainable. So the ability for a vehicle to have an embedded commercial payment is exciting, but before doing that, we need to have those relationships with those partners that provide those services. And those partnerships have to, support commercial requirements. So at least initially, think of the natural expansion of, vehicles, right? So such as parking and tolls and auto repair, roadside service, car wash. But beyond that, you can kind of think of where things could head more in a fun and futuristic view. Could an autonomous vehicle leave a job site someday to pick up materials at a supply house, saving a contractor from downtime? It's incredibly important to a lot of our small businesses that operate within our portfolio. So EV really represents a step function in technology, similar to, as a reference, flip phones to smartphones. But, as we work through that with our customers to simplify their businesses, those relationships are what we're putting in place right now. And on top of that comes that toolkit as the technology improves, similar to the comment that I made earlier about the old days of knuckle busters. We're not there anymore. We've come a long way, and I think we have a long way to go in terms of mobility. But at a certain point, that embedded payment is of great interest to our customers as well as to WEX.
And finally, I thought I'd just get some of your reflections on current fleet management. So do you think the EV and mobility transition that's going on is changing fleet management? And, is it requiring a different skill set? Is it attracting a new cohort of people? Do you have any comment to make on that?
Yes, I mean, I think it's going to change, and I don't think that's much of a surprise. For example, energy management and charging strategies will become, a big part of a fleet manager's job. A bit of a mix from analog to digital. So, in cases where fleets utilize a depot solution, the line between facilities and fleet manager might start to blur, right, as it relates to energy and the potential need to install, whether it's, solar panels on a roof or battery banks, right? So that same skill set that was used to figure out fuel efficiency and fueling solutions will still be needed in the energy consumption space. But, it's a real move to digital. And I think EV and mobility just accelerates that. So a lot of the skills that were used in the past will carry through, but a lot of new skills will be necessary. And I think that's going to be more around understanding energy versus just fuel.
Jay, thanks for your time. It's been exciting to talk to you about EVs, and especially with someone from the other side of the world.
Thanks, Caroline. I hope you enjoy your spring in Australia.
You've been listening to Fleet Auto News podcast. It was edited and produced by Isabella Fiorentino. Thank you again to our new sponsor, Sofico Services. It's great to have you on board. The original theme music for this podcast was created by Isabella Fiorentino. You can follow us on Spotify. Just search for Fleet Auto News. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Our website is fleetautonews.com, where you can get all our stories, videos, and podcasts. Until next time, drive safely and take care.